The town's most beautiful girl was now broken, bleeding, barely conscious. Her sister gave her the antidote, praying it wasn't too late. With trembling hands and a face twisted in pain, she drank it. Then it began. She started choking, her body convulsing as something squirmed inside her. Moments later, a thick, slimy worm forced its way out of her mouth. She screamed, but it was the only way to survive. But how did it come to this? It began months ago, when two girls, Alma and Elvira, journeyed to the kingdom of Swedlandia. On the journey, Elvira daydreamed about Prince Julian from her favorite poetry book, imagining a romantic moment where he hurt her with an arrow, but healed her with love. Her mother Rebecca's voice snapped her out of it as they arrived. They were welcomed by an old man named Otto at his home. Rebecca looked elegant, and everyone smiled as they stepped out of the carriage. She quietly reminded Elvira about her braces, prompting a closed-lipped smile. Otto greeted them warmly, kissed Rebecca's hand, and introduced his daughter Agnes. At Rebecca and Otto's wedding, they vowed to love and honor each other in sickness and in health until death. Elvira and Alma explored the house, and Elvira was excited by its beauty. Agnes gave her a tour, and Elvira remained amazed by everything she saw. On the way, Agnes introduced her to a boy called Isak, who cared for the horses. Elvira noticed Prince Julian's residence from the window and grew excited. Agnes asked if the book Elvira carried was the prince's poetry. Elvira, visibly frustrated, clutched the book and said she wanted to marry the prince. That night at dinner, Otto, Rebecca, Alma, Agnes, and Elvira sat together. Otto and Rebecca playfully broke a cake, and Otto threw a piece at Elvira, making everyone laugh. Rebecca, though unsure, laughed along. Elvira tried to hide her braces but ended up laughing out loud. Suddenly, Otto clutched his chest and collapsed, blood coming from his mouth. Everyone panicked, and Agnes cried out for him, but he didn't respond. Later, Elvira brought food to a grieving Agnes in bed. Thinking she was asleep, Elvira picked up her hairbrush. Agnes told her to leave. Elvira tried to comfort her, saying her own mother slept all day when her father died, but the pain passed. Angrily, Agnes told her not to compare grief and accused her of settling in too fast before Otto was even buried. She claimed Rebecca's money was the only reason Otto accepted them. Confused, Elvira asked what money she meant. "Rebecca's money," Agnes repeated. Shocked, Elvira ran to her mother, yelling that they had no money. When Elvira looked into the room, Rebecca was with several young men discussing the finances. They repeated what Elvira said about having no money and told Rebecca they would immediately seize all cattle and arable land. They left her with a single coin. Rebecca fell to the ground. Elvira tried to comfort her mother, saying they would find a way. But Rebecca said it was hopeless. She was a widow, aging, and had two useless daughters. Elvira offered to marry someone rich herself. Rebecca mocked her, asking if she planned to marry the prince and told her to look at her face, making Elvira feel insecure. Rebecca added that even Alma hadn't started her period yet, so there was no future for them. Elvira walked to the mirror, stared at her face in braces, and tried to reshape her nose with her fingers. Agnes grieved at her father's grave, praying that her life wouldn't end like his. A white dove appeared. Then she heard a trumpet and a message from the castle. It declared that the king and Prince Julian invited all noble virgins to a ball 4 full moons from now. Elvira and Agnes hurried to where a voice had called, excited for the chance. A man on horseback took their names. Agnes gave her full grand name, Agnes Angelica Alasica, Victoria von Morgenstieren, Munte of Rosenhof, and got her invitation. Elvira gave just her first name. When asked for her von, she had nothing, so Agnes told the man she was her stepsister. He handed Elvira an invitation labeled Elvira von Stepsister. Later, Elvira, Rebecca, and Alma visited Dr. Estetique, a body-shaping expert. He said her braces were easy to fix, but doubted he could help her nose. Still, he promised to tame it. Rebecca declined eyelash extensions and said just the braces and nose for today. When asked about payment, she promised double after the ball. The nurse removed Elvira's braces with a loud snap. Rebecca chose nose shape number 7. Alma hid her face, nervous. Elvira groaned as the doctor struck her nose with a sharp tool, making it bleed. At the ball, Elvira wore a cover on her nose. Miss Sophie welcomed everyone to the school year and announced that a dance would open Prince Julian's ball, with dancers chosen by her and Madame Vanya. During rehearsals, Vanya moved Elvira to the back of the line and brought Agnes forward. Elvira, frustrated, ended up beside a smiling girl with braces. That night at dinner, Alma, Elvira, Rebecca, and Agnes sat together as the servant brought food. Elvira stayed quiet. Agnes mentioned she had set a date for her father's funeral. Rebecca replied it would happen when Elvira married the prince and they could pay for it. Upset, Agnes asked why they spent so much on beauty treatments while her father's body remained unburied. Rebecca, calmly eating, said not everything costs money and asked if Elvira and Alma could wear some of Agnes's unused dresses. Angry, Agnes stood up and left the table. Agnes took a light and flowers into the dark room where her father's body lay. She heard insects and saw his face covered in them. Horrified, she screamed and stepped back. At the ball, the list of selected performers was posted. The girls hugged upon seeing their names. Elvira checked the list and saw her name at the bottom, replacing another girl's. She smiled, imagining the prince holding her. During dance class, Vanya demonstrated in the middle. She asked who could try, and all the girls, including Elvira, raised their hands. Vanya laughed and called on Elvira. After dancing, Vanya said she had talent, but it was wasted and revealed her mother had paid for her to be there. Vanya told her to work harder and sent her back. Then she called Agnes and 2 others to perform, looking at Agnes fondly. At night, designers measured Elvira and whispered that she was fat. They discussed using ribbons to make her outfit fit. After they left, Elvira looked at her body in the mirror and grew annoyed with her belly. The next morning, Elvira waited for her one-on-one session. She overheard Sophie telling Agnes that the prince would love her, which made Elvira feel hopeless. When Sophie called her in, Elvira said she was ugly and beyond help. But Sophie disagreed, saying Elvira reminded her of herself. She asked to see Elvira's nose and called it beautiful. Then she handed her a tapeworm egg, saying, "It's what's inside that counts." Later, Elvira and Alma went on a picnic horseback ride. Elvira read one of Prince Julian's poems aloud. She then showed Alma the tapeworm egg and made her promise not to tell anyone. Elvira said she would swallow it to lose weight while still eating normally, then take an antidote later. Alma was shocked and asked if she was insane. Elvira said their mom didn't know. Horrified, Alma said she'd rather die than take it and rode off. At the stables, Isak helped Agnes off her horse. They kissed. Agnes said she needed to marry the prince. Isak feels bad, asking if she ever loved him. Agnes said she would never love anyone else. In the jungle, Elvira swallowed the tapeworm egg and smiled. A hawk fell nearby, startling her. She heard men's voices and saw Prince Julian with 2 men. He was urinating while they threw arrows. Elvira watched but stepped on a branch. The prince saw her. One man suggested taking her, but the prince refused. Elvira ran, imagining the prince lovingly calling her name. That night, Elvira went to the stables and saw Agnes and Isak making love. Shocked, she ran. In the morning, Rebecca slapped Agnes, saying she'd never see Isak again. Agnes argued back. Rebecca shouted she was lucky not to be thrown out and ordered servants to make her work. Rebecca kicked Isak out, naked, holding his clothes. Agnes cried watching him leave from her window. 3 full moons later, Rebecca helped Elvira remove the nose support. Her nose looked beautiful. Rebecca complimented it and left. Elvira admired herself in the mirror. Elvira visited Dr. Esthétique, who praised her nose as a masterpiece. He suggested giving her breasts like Nurse Anna's. Elvira pointed to the nurses. Then she lay in bed, visibly frustrated, as the doctor worked on her eyelashes with needles. Her eyes bled as she groaned in pain. At night, Elvira was sleeping. The worm in her stomach started to move, and her stomach started to hurt. She needed to go to the bathroom, but her eyes were covered by Dr. Esthétique, and she couldn't see anything. Alma, in her bed, heard her sister's voice and woke up. She saw her bed and noticed she was bleeding. Alma was shocked. Elvira started going to pee, and Alma came to her, holding a light, asking what she wanted to do. Elvira told her she wanted to pee. Alma told her to follow her. Elvira went to the bathroom making noises. Agnes came to Elvira thinking it was someone else. Agnes held sticks to hit, but saw it was Elvira and brought her cake. At the ball, Vanya and Sophie were talking when they noticed Elvira. Vanya looked concerned and mentioned hearing sad news about Agnes. She asked what Rebecca had said. Sophie explained that Agnes had been in bed for days, overwhelmed by grief over her father. Vanya sighed and said no one could replace her, but Sophie replied that someone would. Vanya then walked over to the girls rehearsing, sent one of them back, and asked Elvira and 2 others to perform. As Elvira danced, Vanya and Sophie watched and smiled, clearly impressed. That night, Elvira was in her room reading a poem when Agnes brought her food. Elvira thanked her, but Agnes only grunted. Elvira asked her to read aloud and started eating. Afterwards, she asked Agnes to brush her hair. Agnes picked up the brush, said it was hers and she wouldn't need it anymore, then walked out. Elvira looked in the mirror and panicked. Her hair was falling out. She screamed in shock. Later, a man named Jan arrived at Rebecca's house with his men. Rebecca led him into Elvira's room and woke her up with a surprise. A new dress she said had cost a fortune. Elvira was thrilled. Rebecca called Agnes to help Elvira get dressed. As they prepared, Jan tried to force a kiss on Agnes. She resisted and spat in his mouth. Jan, angry, kissed her again, but Agnes spat on the floor. Rebecca made Agnes clean the floor. Elvira looked at herself in the mirror and was amazed, but her hair looked bad. Jan had also brought a wig, and it looked amazing on her. Later, Elvira saw the dress Agnes planned to wear to the ball. Elvira looked at it with jealousy and tore it, though Agnes shouted she wanted to go to the ball. Rebecca came while they were shouting. Agnes left. Elvira told Rebecca that Agnes said she would go to the ball. Rebecca calmed Elvira, said Agnes had nothing to wear, and told her to sleep. Agnes later prayed, and her dead mother appeared in spirit. She showed her address and told her the shoe was in her pocket. Agnes checked and found a beautiful shoe. On the final day at the ball, the girls go to the ball with a carriage. In the room, when a man called the girls' names, they went to the room and started introducing themselves to the prince. A man read each girl's name and background, and the girls expressed themselves through movement. Rebecca and Elvira were in the background. Rebecca put perfume on Elvira and told her how to act. Elvira's name is called. She entered with Rebecca and moved confidently. The men, including the prince, paid attention to her. Elvira was happy. The man said her favorite food was vegetable. The dance performance began, and Rebecca told Elvira that everyone was waiting for her. The girls stood in a circle as Prince Julian arrived to choose a partner. He looked at each girl and stopped in front of Elvira. She greeted him, and he asked her to dance. They danced together, followed by other pairs joining in. Midway through, another girl entered and caught everyone's attention. The prince left Elvira to dance with her. Upset and in pain, Elvira left the room and vomited a worm egg. Horrified, she told Rebecca she was dying. Rebecca calmly said she'd be fine and reminded her that many men were still interested. Elvira returned and danced with other men, but her focus stayed on the prince. She imagined people around her spitting out worms. Prince Julian continued dancing with the mysterious girl. After the performance, the girl disappeared, and the prince held up a shoe, declaring he would marry whoever it fit. Later, Elvira returned home and saw Agnes and noticed the prince's shoe beside her. Holding a knife, Elvira demanded it. Agnes tried to run. Elvira realized Agnes had been the mystery girl and yelled, asking what secret she was hiding. Rebecca came with a man and told Elvira to go to her room. Elvira told her Agnes was the girl, but Rebecca insisted. Rebecca and the man then started kissing. In her room, Elvira tried the shoe, but it didn't fit. She got angry and cried. Then she decided to cut her toes to make it fit. She cut them, started bleeding. Alma came and saw the bleeding. Rebecca and the man entered and saw what Elvira had done. The man fainted. Elvira asked Rebecca to help her fit the shoe, but she had cut the wrong foot. Rebecca gave her medicine to sleep. While she was asleep, Rebecca cut her other toes. In her dream, Elvira saw the prince, wore a beautiful dress, and went to him. He fit the shoe on her foot, and they kissed. He shouted that he had found his beloved. Elvira woke in pain. Her legs were bleeding and covered. She heard the prince was coming. She tried to walk, but crawled instead. She saw Agnes going to the prince. The shoe fit Agnes. Elvira started bleeding more, and her face turned uglier. Alma came to Elvira and saw her bleeding. She told her they will leave. Alma helped Elvira by asking where the antidote was, and then Elvira drank it. The worm came out from her stomach through her mouth, which had a long height, even making her groan while it came out. Later, Alma, holding the materials, saw Rebecca lying in bed with the man, and Alma left the room. Elvira couldn't walk but was lying down and using her hands to move. Then Alma helped her with the movement and helped Elvira get onto the horse, telling her they had to cross the border before it got dark. They both rode one horse and started to leave the place.